Greetings, everybody. Welcome to week 3, farm to table. Already a quarter of the way in, right? So let's keep on pushing. Hope everybody's staying cool in these hot temps. I know everybody was talking about how hot it was, and the gazpacho was a nice relief. Also, what's the benefit of having a cold soup? You don't even have to really heat up your kitchen with the stove, right? If you haven't worked in a kitchen in the restaurant industry, get ready for summers, ladies and gents. It gets hotter than Hades in there, all right? Not having AC right now, cooking, good practice, all right? It'll just start to get you accustomed to it. Luckily, they've made a lot of improvements in uniforms since, the past 20 years, and they've got ones with like vents in the back, lighter material, conducive for like wicking sweat away, as opposed to like the thick cotton and polyester blends that have been around from the get-go. So before we hop into reflection and anything, I would like to introduce Chef Lee, who you may see with an email, Karen Copeland. She is the woman and chef behind some of your feedbacks and will be in class with us. Chef Lee, the court is yours.
Hey everybody, nice to see you. It's nice to put some names to faces here in live time. So good to see you all. I'm really glad to be here with you.
Chef Lee, do you want to say anything about some of your past jobs or any other little introduction, where you're from, anything? Share with us.
Sure, I'll be glad to.
Great.
I am a native of Atlanta, lived here. Not really a native. I'm from Alabama, but I grew up here in Atlanta, so might as well be a native. And I spent about 10 years while I was in culinary school, and then beyond that, working in the restaurant industry here in Atlanta, and wrapped up my restaurant career at Bacchanalia. Spent a great 6 months there learning under some wonderful chefs. And then for the last 14 and a half years, worked as a private chef for one person. So that was a dramatically different experience, going from being in a really busy restaurant to just working for one employer. So it's been a great experience. I've learned a lot. I've traveled all over the world and tried to soak up as much education as I can in my travels and learning. I went to a cooking school in Thailand and studied there for a few days, lived in Malaysia for 6 months. So I've just soaked up learning everywhere I've traveled, and that's been a great thing to have in my toolbox as a chef.
Awesome, thank you, Chef. Chef Mike, I'm not sure if he's here. He will be popping in and out. You know that he is our tutor on hand, so if you're having issues with time management, or extra questions that you just want to reach out to him about. Maybe you want to talk to him about working in the healthcare industry while being a restaurant professional. Lots of things. We've got tons of help here. You can reach out to myself, Chef Lee, Chef Mike, and just know that we're all here to support you. We want you to be successful, as we keep talking about. So, before we hop into more of reflecting, I want to hear from you all. We were sharing some thoughts and experiences before class started, but for those who weren't on there earlier, let's hear from you. Anybody would like to share about your gazpacho experience?
So I'll add something real quick. My roommate doesn't like a lot of vegetable foods. I introduced him to cream of mushroom soup that I make by hand. He eats that. Doesn't really care for tomato soup. I made this. He had 3 bowls. So, and it's something that I tell my mother too. There are certain things that she doesn't like unless I make it. Then I've reintroduced her to certain things, and then she likes it. And I say, because a lot of the stuff that you've tried just wasn't made right. And when you make it right, it's such a huge difference on it. And that's, I think, the same thing with the gazpacho. You may not like tomatoes, but when you put it together like this, it is just so good.
Definitely. There's a little bit of joy, I think, associated when you get someone, whether it's a kid, a family member, to eat something that they think that they don't like, and then they're like, I love this, you know? And it's like, gotcha. All right, now it's time to start eating those, right? There's a little bit of fun in there. It's a good feeling to make them enjoy food that they otherwise think that they don't like. So great. Robert, I see your hand up. Robert Gore.
Yeah, I think I got this back in the feedback. I think I would have taken some other chefs call it the caviar of the tomato out to make it more smooth. I think I would have done that next time just to make it a little.
Definitely gone for the full concasse, as we talked about in the live session last week, where you can, when you concasse that tomato, remember you're doing the Xing on the tomato, you're blanching it, you're shocking it, you're taking out the insides or the caviar, right? It can result in a smoother and sometimes less bitter, depending upon the age of the tomato and the seeds that impart it. It really depends upon the type of gazpacho you're trying to get, a little bit rustic, a little bit smoother and finer, but definitely a great observation, Robert. Melinda.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to piggyback off of what Roger said and just say that it was so interesting to me that you can take just a mishmash of fresh vegetables and how it could be so delicious and so elegant, and you feel like you're having the finest thing in the world, you know?
Simple ingredients yielding delicious end results, definitely. And a lot of that has to do with seasonality, what we keep talking about, getting those fruits and vegetables at the peak of, the height of their ripeness, right? As opposed to traveling, those 1,500 miles, right? Very different. It doesn't even have to be organic, but if it's local, right? It's not shipped as long. It's fresher, it's closer to the vine. Shopping at a farmer's market when you can, even if it's not organic, right? Local. I don't know if any of you read those articles I sent out, but the taste differences. If you didn't, check it out, right? A lot of studies going out, hey, what's the difference between organic and conventional? Is there a taste difference? What I would like to challenge you all to do as well, when you have the funds to do it, give yourself that challenge. What I think you will probably most notably see the difference in is not always the vegetables, all right? Not always. However, get yourself a tub of sour cream, all right? And do two things. Remember how we were talking about looking at labels and ingredients? Get yourself a regular old tub of sour cream, conventional, Breckstone, or whatever version you want. Look at those ingredients, right? Then get a side-by-side another tub of organic sour cream and taste the difference. Look at the color, get the mouthfeel, and that's where you might start to notice. That's where you're gonna see some nuances, all right? Same with meat, to be honest. Meat, you're gonna have some different flavor profiles. But again, it's not just about that falling for that term natural, okay? Who's ever seen in the market the Amish chicken, right? There's a taste difference in there. There's a definite taste difference. Or who's ever gone to the store and seen, local producer of chicken, and they've got that really nice yellow skin, right? As opposed to this super bleached out, almost like they've been wiping on, I don't know, sunscreen, no color to their skin, right? What's the flavor profile? Is there a difference? What's the size difference? Are those breasts off the chicken that you're getting gigantic? Does anybody know what happens to some of the meat, especially chicken? That what can happen to that chicken? What's allowed to be put into that chicken?
Hormones?
Hormones, yeah, definitely. That's steroids, fillers, yeah, of course. Saline, water, yeah, Kimberly, with saline solution, a salt and water solution that is added to this chicken to plump up weight. Oh yeah, crazy. The more knowledgeable we become of what type of food we're eating, how it's being raised, what's allowed to go in it, the more you're going to start shaping your choices on where's the trade-off for quality versus price. Is there? If you're running an establishment and your customers don't have either the pocketbook to afford, higher priced protein items, is there a point to it? Probably not, because they're not going to buy it. But if you've got clientele that has the pocketbook that they can't afford that, that's going to be a lure. That's going to be a buy-in. Somebody wants to jump on that. We're going to talk a lot about that in menus class, the last 6 weeks of this class. But just start wrapping your heads around that, right? Value, quality, quantity, what's going on, right? Awareness of products and what's going in them. Okay. Gina's talking about chicken that had a rubber-like consistency. I'll send out an article about that. It's really interesting. That has to do with the growth of animals. I'll send an article out I think you might find interesting about that. That will address that. All right, Gina, did you also want to talk about your gazpacho, or was that what you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that and also the gazpacho. I was late. I have everything but my iPhone. The screen went black. We tried to do a hard restart, so I'm gonna have to do it over. I'll do it. I went out, bought everything new. Have to do it over because my pictures are in the iPhone and I can't get to it. Like, I had a nervous breakdown today about it. Like, really.
Okay, well, don't have a breakdown. Just reach out and send me a message. That's the easiest thing, right? That's the easiest way to connect with me. Don't worry about it. You just talk to me, send me a message. We'll be good. All right, Gina?
Okay.
You guys,
I'll finish it after class. Like, okay. I'm just been one of those days. But like I was saying, 2 years ago, I started noticing chicken, especially in the chicken breast, and it was Stop and Shop brand. I used to buy all the time, but then it started having like this rubber consistency. It was crazy.
Yeah, great observation, right? Again, this goes into the importance of that narrative, right? Observing your products. What changes are going on? What if you're running a restaurant and you've been ordering the same product all the time, and then all of a sudden you start noticing maybe you're getting feedback from your guests saying, you know what, something's off about the texture of this chicken. Maybe you notice it because you're spot checking, right? What products are going out. That's when you say, hey, what's going on? Reach out to your purveyor, your supplier, vendor. Has there been any changes? That's when you have to keep diving deeper. Always checking out on observations, right? As chefs, this is really important. Constantly being aware.
That happened when I was working in a place, and I called a distributor, and we didn't have what you normally get, so we sent you something else. I said, you should never do that. You should always call us before you send us anything that we didn't order.
Yeah,
we don't want it. So, we'll give it to you for free. We're so sorry, but it's, if regardless of the free, the consistency is not right. So the customer's going to know. If I notice it, I know the customers are going to notice it.
Yeah, definitely. So it's just an important lesson on constantly observing, and that's why we push this narrative and why it's important, why we want you talking about textures, consistencies. What differences are you noticing, right? So go ahead and do the dairy comparison as well. Like I said, I think sour cream is probably going to be what I've noticed is one of the most noticeable differences. I've done it to a few friends and they're blown away by the difference because they think, oh, there's no difference between organic and non-organic. And when you do the dairy, you see a little bit of that. I don't know if any of you checked out the label for eggs last week that we didn't have time to cover. I want to pull that up because I think you'll get a good kick out of that, just because we didn't have a chance to finish that, and then we're going to keep moving forward with week 2, but I don't want to let this opportunity pass. So, 1 second. Here we go. All right. So, for those of you who have, this is old news. For those of you who have not, please do take a look at this, knowing what your labels mean. When we walk into the grocery store, we see tons of different types of eggs, not only varying from their size, right? Extra large, grade A, double A, B, small, medium, large. You also will now start seeing all these other different tags, right? Hormone free. Let's just look at that. We see hormone free. Guess what? Marketing gimmick. Egg laying hens are not given hormones. But are we paying, or sometimes you think, oh yeah, no hormones, that's what I want. And we're willing to pay the extra money. But are we getting anything for that extra money? Right? So being aware, not just as a consumer and supplying your family, but as a purchaser, creating menus and serving your customers. You're putting that price, that cost increase on somewhere, most likely the customer. And are they gaining anything from that? Okay. What about cage free? Cage free. Well, we think, oh, those chickens are living the good life. They're outside the whole time. Fact of the matter is they're not outside all the time. They have free space to roam, but look at this. No access to sunlight. They're outside of a cage. Doesn't mean they're outside. Does not regulate their feed. Pasture raised, you start getting a bit better, and you're going to see a huge increase on price on that, unfortunately. They're actually let out to actually peck around, eat the grubs, eat the herbs, and you're going to see a difference. Who's ever seen a dark yellow, almost orange colored yolk? Has anybody ever seen this? Right? A few of us. If you either have somebody that raises their own chickens or been to a farm or have, all right, where it's like the deep, almost like the sunset, right? Deep orange. And how flavorful is that? It has a richness, it has a taste. And then you compare that side by side with that pale yellow yolk, right? Almost no flavor, not a richness to the yolk, right? What buttery? Yeah, you're right, Marty. So what do we think? What do we think that's coming from? That difference in taste and flavor. Diet. Yes, Melinda, you're exactly correct. The more that those animals are out grazing around, eating natural grubs, hey, even your kitchen scraps, cucumber peels or stuff like that, little veggie ends, they love that. They're going to peck on that. An apple core, they're going to eat that, full of nutrients. Okay? Yeah, different flowers. So it's completely different than these other chickens that are sitting either in, now there have been a lot of legislation and laws. By the way, laws and legislation and rules in food, animal husbandry, all of this are constantly changing. So it's important to keep up on that. But somebody mentioned that the yolk is even flatter than the dark orange ones, yellow ones that are a bit more plump, right? Some of that can do with age, but diet as well. So remember, what we eat, right, is going to change the flavor of the products that we make, whether that's eggs or if I'm a cow out there grazing around, eating grass and hay and violets and whatever is coming around in the summer, my meat is going to taste very different than a cow that's eating GMO corn and soy that's been cooped up in a little pen, not moving. Right? So think about that. Flavor profiles. All right? Now again, huge cost differences in these products. Depends upon what type of establishment you want to run, what type of products your guests and customers want, are demanding, what they're capable of, what they're knowledgeable of, right? A lot of this happens to, the slow food movement, the farm to table, this whole movement that started decades ago, but is having a resurgence, had to start with a lot of education. Why is this better? Why should I pay more for this? What am I going to get? Am I getting a benefit? All right. So start thinking about this, start questioning it. I know a lot of you were talking about, you noticed that difference between those egg yolks. What we know that if depending upon the soil that a plant grows in, right? That plant and that end product is going to taste different. Okay? So, ton of factors here. Now, does anybody have any questions regarding that egg sheet? Remember, if you want to review it, it's in week 2. Everybody feeling good about labels and starting to question our food? Doesn't, like I said, doesn't mean you have to buy it. It means you should be aware of it, because you're going to be a better purchaser. You're going to make more money in the long run at your restaurants, because you're going to know when you're getting duped, when you're paying for something that you're not getting any added benefit from. Okay? All right, cool. So, week 3, let's hop into this. Oops. All right. Go back here. All right. There is a feedback survey. If you want to take that, it's available for the next week. So hop in there, answer the questions. It's anonymous as always, but it helps us. Again, totally optional, not required. Then research materials, all right? Read these. This is your resource, all right? We've got a ton of cool information. We're talking about whole animal butchery this week. As you can see, the topic of this week is called Going Whole Hog. This is going to set the precedence for week 7, when we get into offal, all right? So if you don't know what the word offal is right now, O-F-F-A-L, look it up after class, because we're going to be talking about it next week, or in 4 weeks and month, all right? Don't do it now. Focus on what we got going on. I see everybody heading down the typeboard, all right? Now, all right, going whole hog. What do we know about the importance of different cuts of meat? What's so important? Why do we have to know about the different cuts of meat?
How to cook them so they're nice and tender.
Boom, yeah, cooking them, right? How we cook them. Some need low and slow, right? Some need high and fast. Tenderness on cuts. Yeah, each cut cooks and prepares differently. Totally. We don't want to take a delicious short rib and just sear that off when we could really low and slow braise that, get all that collagen and delicious savoriness to ooze out and become this tender cut of meat and flavor a sauce, right? We're losing out on that. Okay? Or what if we take a beautiful filet mignon or a nice tender cut of meat and we're just blasting it on high heat? Who's ever had that dry meat, right? Stringy. Yeah. Again, knowing your product allows you to cook it and get a better end result. So, what about who here has broken down and fabricated a chicken? Right? All of you should have in CU101. Now, who has broken down and fabricated a duck? What about turkey? Want some few hands? What about squat or quail or pheasant? Okay, no problem. What if I told you, if you know the basics on how to break down and fabricate a chicken, you can do that to almost all poultry. Just upped your knowledge, right? You're gonna be, they're gonna vary in size. Their breasts and legs might be a little bit different, but that basic structure, right? Breasts, how do they cook? Thighs, legs, wings. How do you bend them? So you bend them at the joint so you know you can cut around there, right? So don't ever be too intimidated when you're presented with another animal that is very similar to an animal you've already broken down. know that you have that skill and knowledge, all right? And apply it to that. Of course, you got to do a little research. Hey, is what's edible, what's not? But trust me, it's almost all the same. I'm going to blah, blah, blah. I'm going to pull up a visual right now so you can all see. I know. Let me do this. Let me just get this in there. Hold on. Let's see if I can get a good visual here. Chef Lee, anything that you want to talk about in regards to breaking down, fabricating poultry and different birds and
Yeah,
while I pull this up?
for sure. I was just, I noted Gregory Wallace's comment, that's how I was able to fabricate a turkey for Thanksgiving. I remember when I was in culinary school and I learned to butcher chicken, and then that first Thanksgiving when I was able to apply that knowledge to the turkey in front of my family, and I felt like a rock star. And it's true. There's so many things that you're going to learn in school that will apply in different places. So today, for last week we did the gazpacho, and you might think this is such a simple assignment. Why are we doing this? However, there's some foundations that are being laid. You're practicing your knife skills. You're learning to think as a chef about things that you can prepare quickly and at a low cost that are going to help your food cost in your restaurant. So if you ever are curious about what the actual assignment, what the value of that assignment is and how it's going to apply to your life as a chef, please reach out, because there are essential lessons that you're learning with each of these assignments. If you haven't carved a turkey yet, the first time you do that after learning this technique in culinary school, I hope you feel like a rock star. It really is a great takeaway.
Awesome. Thank you, Chef. 100% right. So here's a quick visual. It doesn't have all the birds I mentioned, but it has a lot of them, and you'll get the gist of what I'm trying to drive home here. Look, these are all extremely similar, right? We're just looking at different sizes, slightly different structure on the length of the neck, perhaps, or the leg, or a longer, leaner breast, all right? But otherwise, they all have that same structure. So it's really pretty simple. Once you know that basic, you can apply it. So guess what this also would be applied to? What animals have ribs? Who's ever had a pork rib? What about beef ribs? Goat ribs, lamb ribs, sheep, right? They all have hindquarters, right? They've all got the hindquarters, right? Thighs, legs, trotters, calves, okay? Shoulders, tenderloin, run around that back. Four-legged, exactly. So you start to learn those cuts. Again, if a cow is walking around, or a goat or anything is walking around on four legs, Melinda said, we've got different muscles that are working, that are going to be more engaged, all right? Those need to be worked, those need to be cooked a little lower and slower. Those muscles that aren't getting worked super hard are a bit more tender. And that's going to be the same way on all these basic four-legged structured animals. Slight variations, different cuts, but more or less that general carcass is going to be very similar, okay? So there's so much information on fabricating animals. Now, what's important when you're doing research, just like we talk about with all research, say you're looking up a recipe for something. Anybody and their uncle and their 5-year-old child can put a recipe on all recipes, right? That doesn't mean it's been tried, tested, or recipe checked by anybody, okay? So when looking for recipes, make sure they're coming from a valid source, they've been tested, all right? Just don't go in trusting and believing everybody, right? Because maybe you're gonna start noticing, hey, that ratio looks way off. I'm not so sure about that, okay? Same goes for looking up techniques on YouTube. Again, anybody can post that. So you might have a really fantastic hunter who's out there shooting deer, pulling it down, hanging it up to their basketball court and gutting it and breaking it down. What are we going to miss out on there? First of all, sanitation, okay? All right? Maybe they're not making the right cuts, all right? Maybe they're missing out on cuts. So when you're doing research, we don't have any videos for us for fabricating a whole carcass, but what we do have, and this is a link on your class page that you can check out, it's in the slideshow. Hop on into that slideshow again, all right? Make sure that when you are looking for good sources, all right, so going whole hog, we'll talk about this, sustainability tips, right, for what you need to know of different cuts of beef. Beef Education Butcher Series video, all right? We're not gonna play this. You can watch this on your own time because we always have too much to talk about in this class. But look, right, this is gonna be the real deal. This one breaks down ribs and chuck, all right? As you can see, these are professionals. We're in a warehouse. They're wearing what looks like construction caps. You know why? Because one of those carcasses could swing around and hit you in the head, knock you out. Gotta be careful. They're all hanging on hooks. This is gonna be chilled, right? Keeping that meat at the correct temperature. So once you hop on this one, you can really check into all of, you know, the Beef Education Butcher Series, quite solid. So check that out. I really love playing this, but we just don't have time for it. So what I'm going to show you right now is what do we think the importance of, and how do we connect utilizing the whole animal to farm to table? No
Less
waste.
waste.
Yeah, exactly. How do we make sure that we don't have low reduced waste?
Use as much of the animal as you can.
Exactly. Which is going to lead us into offal, which are innards. All right. Again, we're going to be talking about that more in week 7. Using every part. What do we learn about? What if we were to buy an entire animal and we just wanted the meat, but we have to buy the entire animal, right? So what comes with that animal? Fat, bone, skin. If we throw all that stuff out, what do we just do to the cost of the meat itself, the muscle itself? I think Gina was saying, yeah, so is, I can't see your name, but I see there going up, right? Because you've just taken all, right, product, thrown it away. So that cost goes up. Just like if you're ordering prefabricated meat, you're gonna pay more for that. What if you have somebody on your staff that's educated and knows how to break down different cuts of animals? You can save money.
That's a bonus person.
Yeah, definitely. So if you ever get a chance, more money, exactly. If you ever get a chance to learn from anybody, butcher, fabrication, take that opportunity. When you go to a butcher shop, talk to them if they're the old school type, right? Deborah was just pointing out something great. Chicken parts cost more than a whole chicken. How much do wings cost per pound? Way too much, right? But that's because there's only 2 wings on every chicken. How many chickens, whole chickens, do we need to make a 12-piece that you're selling as an app? 6 whole chickens. Yeah. Start to see how this starts to work out? Money and cost, right? Knowing how to break down certain things. Now, alternatively, if you don't have use for other byproducts, then your menu isn't designed for that, and that's okay, okay? Remember, most restaurants are not 100% organic. They're not totally farm to table. Why do you think that? Cost, yeah. It is really hard to do. Your menu has to be constantly changing, okay? And the cost goes up. Because what are you gonna do? Okay, now I've got some livers, so I've got and I'm gonna fabricate 20 chicken. I can get all the livers from those chickens. I can make enough chicken pate for a special. But I can't have that on the menu every day. I'm gonna sell out. If you wanna be in the whole grand scheme of this super movement of extreme farm to table, it's just not a reality.
I have a question I'd like to pose to the class.
Yeah, chef.
So can you all think of an example where if you were buying whole chickens and you weren't making pate for your menu, how else could you use some of the offal or the parts of that chicken on your menu? That's right.
Make a
I'm
stock.
thinking specifically about the organ meat. There you go. What would you do with those fried gizzards, Roger? How would they show up on your menu? Maybe as an
They could-
appetizer?
Well, it could be a meal though. I normally it's ordered as a meal with a side or two, maybe
Mhm.
fries or something of that nature, and
Yep.
gravy of some sort or some sort of sauce.
Yep, that's a great example. Stuffing, that's another great way to use those livers. And all those things that come in the bag, right? When we buy a chicken at the store, what do we do with them at home? I don't know. I cook them for my dog. But there are definitely ways that you can apply those to your menu in the restaurant. Just something to think about.
Exactly, chef. What about one of my all-time favorites? Who's ever had chicharrones or cracklins, right? That's skin. Skin would normally get, if we were again taking just the meat, throwing away the rest, we'd lose all that delicious fat and flavor. Maybe you're offering a grilled chicken breast. Well, guess what? Breasts normally come with skin, right? Maybe you want that grilled chicken breast to be skinless. Well, then you're gonna take that skin off and you're gonna utilize it in something else, okay? Otherwise, you're just wasting product and you're wasting value added, right? You add some nice cracklings to a soup or another dish for this textural component, and the customer's like, yeah, awesome. Okay, toss it in some spices, put it as an appetizer, tons of opportunities, right? Even fish, right? Who's ever had fried fish skin? I love that stuff. That is fantastic. Crispy skin, when you sear that, almost nothing like it. All right, fantastic. So start thinking about this. This is why we're talking about going whole hog, full utilization. All right. Cool. Let's hop into these assignments. I want to show you a few visuals that I'll send out links to. But again, a lot of opportunities. Butchery is on the rise. It was a craft that kind of died out, and now it's surging again, which is fantastic. There are even guilds that are devoted just to the guild of butchers, okay? Forming together and saying, hey, let's preserve this tradition, this craft. What if we have people who don't know how to break down a cow anymore? We lose that. We lose that as a culture. It's important to maintain. All right, so where is this? This is awesome. I want to show you guys. Yeah, cool. So I will send this link out tonight after class, once class is uploaded. Well, first of all, this one I'm going to send out too. This is all about cutting and processing meats, grading meats. You have a lot of this information in your research materials, but this is just if you want to get deeper. I'm pointing out some ideas here. Offal variety meats, you're going to know that. You're going to learn about primal and subprimal and secondary cuts, right? That depends upon how you get them at the restaurant. What cuts do you see at a grocery store? Remember, the cuts you see at a grocery store are different from what you get at a restaurant, which are different from coming from warehouses. Primal, subprimal, secondary, cutting smaller, 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 right? This is what I want to show you though. No, maybe it's here. Yeah, it's here, I think. Ah, yeah. Oh, So if you download this, hopefully it won't take too long. We're gonna get it. I think, maybe not. See if that loads. Basically, it's an up close of these, all right? Your beef cuts, all right? And cooking methods, and then beef cuts for food service. So it'll break it down into the different parts, all right? Remember, you've got all these sections of that chart. See if we're any luck. No. All right, hopefully it'll come up later. But really awesome. Remember, there are so many cuts. Additional, one other thing to note. Not every country has the same cuts of meat. Different people utilize different cuts. Something that might be familiar, thinking, oh, where's this cut of meat from? I learned about a cut of meat called the zabuton. I was like, what on earth is zabuton? So I went to Chef Tyson, who's our main butchery, butcher on staff. And I was like, hey, there's a sale on zabuton, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do with zabuton or what the heck even zabuton is. All right, it means fluffy pillow. Who knew? And it's near the shoulder blade. Let me just pull that up because this is pretty cool. And it's predominantly used in Wagyu, zabuton. I think I spelled it right. Well, now I'm just getting only pictures for pillows. So 1 second. Wagyu. And we'll get a visual here. So, let's just pull up this. This is a meat supplier here. So, the zabuton translates to little pillow in Japanese and comes from the chuck area. Less well known, but also one of the richest, most delicious steaks in our portfolio. All right. So, super fatty, super delicious, tender, incredible, just unbelievable. But again, this goes back to the fact that different countries going to utilize different cuts, might call different cuts different things. All right. So take a look at those beef cuts and charts. Tons of information out there. Every single day, there's more information to learn. Just like flank steak and skirt steak. And how do you start, those prices? Somebody was mentioning out when wings used to be cheap. Now they're expensive. What about when skirt steak used to be cheap? Now it's expensive, right? Demands go up for it. Skirt steaks used to be super cheap. So awesome. You can grill that. Just get a nice sear on both of those sides. Slice it. Medium rare. You got this nice red center. Perfectly juicy and delicious. Now skirt steak's pretty expensive. Demands. Remember, demand changes your costs as well. All right. Let's hop into Chef Lee. Was there anything in the chat that we need to cover, or are we good? Solid? All right, awesome, thank you. All right, so this week we are doing a technique known as pan basting, also known as poêlée. All right, and this is where we want to start. So, do have those research materials, check that out. Dive into that. We do have 2 videos on this. One thing to note, the basted vegetables video, all right? It shows zucchini and squash being basted in this technique, poêlée. You'll notice there's a little bit of a difference, and this recipe says root and vegetables, all right? You want to do root vegetables. Do not do, if the only thing you can find is squash or zucchini, go for it. But make sure you're cutting those into larger pieces. This technique, just like we know for different cuts of meat, and we have different applications, different cooking techniques, right? Same too with different types of vegetables. A root vegetable we know is sturdier and stronger. It's gonna take a little bit more cooking time. It's gonna hold up structurally better than a more fragile and delicate vegetable such as zucchini or squash. So highly, highly, highly suggest picking a root vegetable. Cut-wise, you can do it into large chunks. You can, if you want to square that off, do a medium or large dice. If you're doing a parsnip or a carrot, work on those oblique cuts, all right? You could also, as I mentioned, if you can't find any root veg, or you're just like, you know, price difference, zucchini and squash is all I had, do an oblique cut on your zucchini and squash. Those also work with oblique because they're round, right? You can angle that. And you don't want to do thin slices. It's just gonna, you're not gonna get the full experience of basting, pan basting with this. Now, I'm going to cover both the pork and the veg in one because it is literally an identical process, almost identical. I'll take that back. Now, a few things to note. Pork, if you do not eat pork for religious or health reasons, that is okay, all right? Substitute that with a nice thick cut of steak or a nice thick fillet fish, all right? Both of these will lend very well to this technique. Now, another few things to note. This is really simple, right? Salt, pepper, butter, oil. You're definitely gonna want a little bit more butter and oil than this recipe calls for. I would suggest starting off with oil in your pan. Once you get that sear, all right, you wanna make sure you're preheating that heavy bottom. If you've got a cast iron, this is the time to pull it out and use it. If not, just get a nice thick bottom pan and not a pot. Remember, there are different types of pots and pans to use, right? A pan's gonna let that steam and everything escape. A pot's gonna keep it in, right? You wanna get that sear, all right? Use that more oil in there. Get that nice sear on your the presentation side down first, okay? Whether you're using fish or steak or pork. Then once you flip it, you're gonna add some butter or more oil, depending upon what you have. I would say butter, better flavor. Add that butter, all right? And now what you're gonna do, you're gonna tilt the pan. Let me grab the pan really quickly. See, what do I have in here? All right, this is not ideal, but I'm living not in my home right now. So we've got a pan here. You're gonna tilt it slightly, all right? If this was flat, you're gonna tilt it slightly so you get a little bit of that oil pulling down. You're gonna take your spoon, preferably a larger spoon, okay? Deep, all right? You don't want, if here's your traditional size spoon, you'll see this is a little bit longer. A longer handle, great. A little bit deeper of a bowl, great. You've got an even larger one, awesome, all right? You're gonna take that fat as you tilt that pan and you're gonna start flicking it on top of the protein, all right? There are 2 videos also that I've added into that slideshow. It's gonna give you, you're gonna see exactly what we're talking about, all right? You're basically taking that fat and you're coating it, all right? So that you keep cooking and adding, guess what that, as you add more oil, it keeps penetrating down and cooking it. Because normally if we have a nice thick cut, right, of a steak or pork chop, we might get a sear and we've got this great brown crust on it. And if we keep it in the pan any longer on the heat source, it's gonna burn, but it's not gonna be cooked on the inside, right? So you might throw that in the oven. This method allows you to cook all on the stovetop, utilizing all that fat. And guess what? What else is pouring into that pan as you're cooking that? We've got fat and flavor, juices, juice, right? So you're just taking that and coating the protein again and again. Now, let's think about this. This is a unique, some people might be familiar with this technique, some people might not. You might work in a restaurant that never utilizes this technique. You might work in a restaurant that uses it all the time. What do we think, what type of restaurant do you think is going to utilize this technique? Or which type do you think wouldn't use this technique? Either one.
High end.
High end, yes, why?
A little time consuming.
Boom, yeah, Robert, time consuming, all right? It's different than just quick saute, throwing something in the broiler. One person, maybe I could probably man about 2 or 3, right, with experience. Maybe 4 if I'm really good, depending upon how quick I'm moving in my flat top space, all right? But that's one person that has to stand over that pan, carefully loving it, right? Lapping butter and fat and juices to soak into this piece of protein, right? To get this delicious end result that's gonna have this nice, crispy outside and tender, juicy, flavorful inside. All right? So it's a little bit more time consuming, but I will guarantee you will not get a better piece of meat than cooking it this way. Grill is great, sure. This is completely different. All the fat and all the juices are just penetrating in there. All right? It's fantastic. Cool. So let's hop into some questions. Margarita, I see your hand up.
Just wanted to know if there's a difference between using butter or ghee, clarified butter.
Or clarified butter?
Yes. Is there a difference between just the butter or that or those?
So of course, clarified butter, you're gonna have that higher smoking point. Regular butter versus clarified butter has those milk solids in there, all right, which actually lends to caramelization and more development of Maillard, Maillard reaction. So just a bit more browning, a little bit more, a touch more richness. You know, you can use either one. I like finishing with whole butter personally, just because it gives enough. Jeff Lee, yeah, I see you getting excited. Were you gonna say
That
something?
makes sense. It makes sense.
Well, I mean, it's definitely something I've noticed in cooking in my life that if I want that nice golden brown, I definitely use whole butter. It just works better with those milk fats, I think. But it's a very good question that you're asking there.
That makes sense. Thank you. No, it
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. Thank you so much.
Great question. And definitely start off with that oil, I think, because otherwise, again, or if you wanted to, start off with your clarified butter. Remember I sent you all that link out? I think I did. Did I send you all that link out to the olive, to the oils, the fat? Yes. All right. Go for that high heat one first, so you're getting that nice sear, right? Then, boom, throw in that butter. Lap it up. Now, one other thing to note, if and only if you want to add some aromatics, like a clove of garlic, smash that clove of garlic, or a whole chunk of rosemary, right? A nice branch of that. Do that at the end. Why am I suggesting to put that at the end?
So it doesn't burn.
Boom.
And you get
got
the most
it.
flavor out of it.
Yep, so it doesn't burn, you don't get bitter notes. The longer and higher temp we cook garlic and herbs, once they start getting brown, has anybody ever overcooked garlic and it's like you walk away for a second and you're like, holy cripoli. Ever tasted that? Yeah, I see LaShawna and she's like, yeah, and that was horrible. Yeah, same, I agree, okay? Not pleasant, extremely bitter. Same with those herbs. Those herbs have really volatile oils. That's what gives it that aromatic, right? And they will burn, they turn bitter. So you put them at the end, and then once that flavor gets released, you can take them, obviously using tongs, not with your fingers, or a spoon, and put that right on top of your piece of protein, and then continue lapping up that oil, all right, and putting it over there. All right, LaShawna, hands up. What's up?
You actually answered one of my questions, because my question was, can I add herbs and garlic to the basting? That was the one question. The second question was, are we presenting a full plate or just the protein?
Let me pull up, you're doing a full plate. Let me pull up photo requirements. You will need to do the veg and the protein.
Okay.
Let me pull it up. Great question. All right, photo requirement should be here. Nope, here. Yeah. All right, so this week, plant photo. Some of you put in your plant photo for week 2, and I'm already seeing like massive growth, which is awesome. So throw that in again for week 3. Let's check it out. Remember, that does count for points, right? If you're losing points, it's because you're missing photos, you're not including everything. We want to make sure every week you're submitting all required photos. So your veg filet and your protein filet. And so these are really similar. Of course, SANI, self-ID, proper mise en place for both of them. That could be in one photo. If you can get that overhead shot, that's fine. the protein in the pan and the vegetable in the pan before you start that basting, and then after basting. Then your finished vegetable and 2 identical plates showing the final protein and final vegetable. Now, again, ways to cut back on your costs. Or if you're just a single person at home and you're like, I don't need to eat 2 pieces of pork, take that one, do an awesome job on it, execute it. Then slice it, right? 2 beautiful plates. They don't have to be massive sizes, right? We're looking for 2 identical plates. I saw a lot of you did that in week 1, so great job. Keep that up. And same with your plating, right? Hey, and if you want to add some palm puree or a nice rice pilaf to this, go for it. You can always add a little bit more, but make sure you're showing those required photos and highlighting that, okay? One other thing to think about. What can you do? So now you imagine we've just cooked this awesome cut, this either awesome steak or pork or fish, and you've been basting it. You got all these delicious juices, and they're sitting in the pan. What can we do with that?
Pan sauce.
Pan sauce, yeah. Deglaze, hit it with a little shallot, hit it with a little onion, right? Kill the heat on that, because you're gonna have it's gonna be that oil by then, and fat has been cooking for a while, right? So you don't need a ton of heat, all right? Throw a little aromatics in there, deglaze it if you've got stock, if you have a little vinegar, if you have a little red wine or white wine, you can hit that quickly. Stir it up, pour it over, right? Or put it underneath as your base, okay? Because remember, you're gonna wanna pull, say you're slicing your steak or your protein. Remember, you always wanna make that rest a little bit as well, all right? Let it rest, then make that sauce, put it down, spread out that meat, put your basted vegetables, voila. 2 other things to note, and then we'll see if there are any other questions. This can be, it's a little bit different cooking on, we've talked about this before, but electric versus gas, all right? Again, we know we have different heat control, right? With electric versus gas. Electric holds that heat for longer. Turn on 2 burners if need be, all right? So you get that super high heat sear, all right? Maybe you're then switching it to your medium, all right? Medium burner over there. Because those electric burners go crazy. Plus, Griswolds, cast iron skillets, those hold a lot of heat as well, okay? Remember, that's gonna retain heat. So especially if you're utilizing anything like that, especially if you wanna make that pan sauce afterwards, and you're using a cast iron or heavy metal pan, just kill that heat totally, leave it on there, you've got plenty of heat residual. And if you have too much, just lift it off. Just pull it literally directly off that heat source. Just as you would, if you were to kill your heat source with using gas and you're like, oh, I'm getting too hot, kill it, right? Turn it off. Removing your pan from that heat source, lifting it up, all of those will start to slow that direct heat source coming in. All right, Chef Lee, anything that you would like to contribute or anything that I missed or think that we got to talk about?
No, I'm good. I'm listening intently.
Okay, awesome. Class, any other questions? Anybody excited about this? Gina, I see your Gina hand up. Yeah, Gina.
Trying to unmute. I have cast iron pans. One has marks and the other one was smaller. And I asked the question if I started in one pan and move it to the other, because if I did it both the other pan, the smaller pan, because the other one leaves grill marks.
Wait, sorry,
Wait,
Gina, hold up. You were breaking up a lot in the beginning and I couldn't hear you. Can you say
I
that?
have 2 cast iron pans. One has grill marks, leaves the grill marks, and the other one is smaller. I asked the question in the chat, so I can start it in one and move it to another. But can I just use the one that leaves the grill marks? Will that, or am I not leaving grill marks on this?
You really don't want grill marks on this.
Okay,
you want
that's
nice, even coloring on all of that.
because
Plus,
the grill marks. I know the grooves, so
yes,
I knew.
utilizing a grill pan, you are going to get all that oil is going to stay in the bottom of those little wells. All right, so it's going to be difficult to flip up, and you're going to be more likely to hit that smoke, get that smoke detector going. Oh, thanks, you brought up a great thing. Do not overcrowd your pan. If you've got 2 chops that you want to do, you've got a smaller pan, do 1 at a time. You don't need to do two pieces of protein at a time. Oftentimes, if we crowd our pan, what do we know about crowding our pans?
You start it starts to you're you're making a stew.
Boom, you got it. Steams. It starts steaming. All right, you don't get a good sear on that. Great questions, Gina.
So I just had to move to another room. You were breaking up too.
Can you hear me? Okay. I saw, okay, Margarita, did you have a new question or was that from before?
No, actually, it's just a little side note, recommending a show on Netflix called Down to Earth, which talks a lot about sustainability, organic foods. I thought I'd share that with you and the class. It's a really good show.
Awesome, thanks. Throw that also in the walk-in. All right, put that in the walk-in area. Also, class, I saw some of you posting your work from week 1 in the walk-in, which was awesome. Keep doing it. There's a lot of excitement when we share one another's work. And check out, put that a link in there so people remember that. Thanks, Margarita. Nataya, I see your hand up.
I know I had tried to reach out to you earlier, but are potatoes and radishes okay?
Yeah, those are root vegetables. Your potatoes, now remember, radish is pretty water heavy. They have a lot of moisture content. Those are going to do quite well. Potato, a little bit denser. That's going to take a little bit longer cooking. So in that case, I would not recommend a large chunk. You want to go for a smaller cut so that you can cook it quicker. If you choose a large cut on a potato, sweet potato or anything, you're going to want to blanch that, parboil that quickly. Not just till they're mush, all right? But just so that you take some of that, otherwise you're going to be standing over that pan for hours, all right? Not really hours, but it's going to take longer.
I have some sweet potato, like a potato melody, and I got the thing late about the oblique cuts. I already cut my carrots into squares. Is that going to be okay?
Totally okay. Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I'm just giving you suggestions, right? Because when we think about utilizing that carrot, or a parsnip, the reason we go for an oblique cut is we get more utilization. With the carrot, you will have to lop off those sides, and you're getting a lot of lost waste. But even if you're doing whole ones, just go for it. The key here when you're basting, you don't want to get burn marks, right? You don't want to be overcooked here. Keep those pieces rotating, moving around in your pan, and you'll be good to go.
Okay, thank you, Chef.
Yeah, you're welcome. Great questions. Anybody else? Questions? I saw somebody else throw a hand up, but I don't know who that was. Physical hand, not a blue hand. All right. If you're doing baby carrots, I would suggest doing a cut on that. Again, we want to see some knife cuts. Cut those baby carrots on a bias, right? Or have them down the middle, get that nice initial sear on the flat side, rotate them, and then continue basting, or vice versa. Same with the baby potatoes. Get yourself some nice flat surfaces. Again, flat surfaces are really going to help with the basting technique and just getting some nice coating on there. Cool. All right. If anybody has questions along the way in those next few days before this assignment is due, please do not hesitate to reach out. And I hope you enjoy this, because I cook fish like this all the time. It's awesome. And steak. Thick cuts, the thicker the better. Yeah, Chef.
One other thing, I know you mentioned this at the beginning of class. My name is Karen Lee Copeland. I go by my middle name, so you may have seen some feedback from Chef Lee. That's me. I know it's a little confusing with Karen here in the Zoom screen, but that's the situation.
I love it.
Excuse me, Chef, I have a question.
Yes.
I really need to know who I contact about getting some help finding a place to do my extern.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I did just post something in the walk-in. The other people were asking about externship. So the information is there, but just send me a direct message and I'll hook you up. Basically, you want to talk to career services. A few things here. Let me just show you all right now. Like I said, I did post this in the class walk-in, but another thing, and I think you all have this button, but let me just show you just in case. Again, another option is reaching out to me directly. Third option, go into this help button and then just type in externship. Let's see if we get luck. And you're gonna see. For more information regarding your externship and its requirements, please contact Career Services, email, phone number. Again, reach out to me directly. I will be happy to send this to you in a message. Check out the walk-in or it's there. They will help you. They will get that ball rolling. I love that you're being proactive. Everybody start thinking about where you might want to do your externship. And for those of you that do have any concerns about this, due to COVID and just a lot of restaurants not working, there is an alternative option. It is an intensive course where you're gonna be building a website, creating recipes, executing them. But both opportunities are going to be fantastic, and Career Services got a fantastic team over there. I love all the team members there, and they will be here to help you. All right?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, class. Well, 6:10 kept you all over as always. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll send out some more information. Again, any information that you all want, reach out to me. I'm here to send you more info. All right? Take care. See you next time. Bye.